Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Tiffany Benson, one part of Team Benson, and today I am starting to build the garden bed for the medicinal garden. So if you guys want to see how I do that, then just keep on watching because it's a challenge because our soil is hard. So I came to sit down in my favorite spot and a giant scorpion just walked by and scared the heebie-jeebies out of me. But okay guys, so when you're building a bed in Arizona or any desert climate, this is just going to be my personal experience of how I do it. So I like to add a lot of things to the bed itself because my soil lacks a lot of stuff. It lacks minerals, it lacks life, it lacks everything except for rocks and sand and just dirt. So I want to add a couple things to it to kind of make this garden bed over time be something that constantly grows and provides a lot of different things for our family. Now, for those of you guys that don't know, we are going to be purchasing land out in somewhere rural. We were going for Tonopah, but a lot of people told me not to do Tonopah, so we were looking at a lot of different places. But this home is something that we do own, and we are going to have it be something that's always in our family. So building these gardening beds and adding these structures into this yard is something that's going to be in our family for years to come. So I want it to be structurally sound, sturdy, and have its purpose and be able to just have, you know, longevity. So every time I do something in this garden, it's meant to be forever, or forever as long as we have it. I personally went to ASU, so I dream of one day having children and they going to ASU, and our home is located not too far from ASU, so it'd be nice for them to be able to go to campus, go to school, and then come home to a home that also has a full garden that can feed them. So sustainability is what we're all about, and it's something that you should always plan for your children, even if you don't have them yet. So let's start looking at this bed, and I'll break this down in steps of how I'm taking care of this garden bed and how I'm preparing it. Now, this is going to be over a 3-day process, so I'm going to give you guys the first steps that I'm doing right now, and then in 3 days, after it's set for 3 days, in 3 days I'm going to go get compost from the AZ Worm Farm, since they will then have it then, and then I will layer it on top and the garden bed will be ready. So the first thing I did is I measured out where the wooden planks are going to go into these little cinder block brick things. So the nice part about these is that these already have the notches in there, so if you get a 2x6, it fits one of them perfectly. If you stack 2 on top, it's going to fit 2 2x6s. So I have it all measured out. I'm not going to make this one as deep as my other beds. It's going to be a little bit more shallow. But the first thing I want to do is go through and take out all of the rocks. As you guys can see, my soil is really, really bad, which is why we are going to take a couple days to treat the soil because it's really, really bad. Over here is where I had a little garden bed, and I had already treated this soil, so right here is a lot better than over here. And right here has a bunch of worms already in it, but once I get it kind of going, I am going to take some worms from the compost bin and put into here and kind of let them kind of live in this little area. Alright guys, so I removed all the rocks, and now I'm just kind of roughing up the soil here. Now, just to give you guys an idea, this is how bad our soil is. This is me roughing it up for about 20 minutes, and still this is how far I could get into our soil. So I want to be able to condition this bed, so instead of just taking the quick way and layering just a bunch of raised bed soil or compost on top of it, I am going to have this be a couple-day process in order to get the soil conditioned and to be able to get at least a couple of layers at the top soft enough for the worms to be able to go down into it. Alright guys, so I'm finally getting down somewhere into the soil. Now I want to take at least like the first couple of inches of native soil off, because a lot of it's going to be a lot of rocks. As you guys can see, there's a lot of just little pebbles and rocks here. So I'm going to dig down and take about the first 2 inches off of it. Luckily, this side's already done because I did this side last spring. Alright, so now we have this hole right there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some eggshells to there. Now all of my eggs that I get are going to be from a farm, so they're all going to be organic. Okay, so now that I have like a little hole dug, I'm going to add my eggshells. Now I get eggs from the AZ Worm Farm, and they feed all of their chickens, and they're all free ranged, and they're not like, you know, in a barn somewhere just forced to lay eggs. So these eggs have a lot of calcium in them. So and adding calcium to your soil is going to make a big difference in your soil health. The other thing I showed you guys yesterday is this fertilizer from Organics Plus. I'm going to add this to that hole too as well. And I'm actually going to add this in layers, because this is going to break down over time, and I want there to be layers of food available for the plants as they kind of grow with their roots and kind of just grow down in there. Because my medicinal garden bed I expect to have longer than any of the other plants, because there's something that kind of produces annually and they'll come back. So I don't know what that's called, but they'll come back, and I want to make sure that there's always food down there for them. Okay, so in the hole I dumped the eggshells, and then now I'm just going to cover it back up. And then I also put about a cup of the fertilizer down there too with it. Now this side I'm not worried about, guys, because I did do this side in the spring. So this side had the eggshells in the same process as this side did. So let's just get it very backed up now. And then also I'm going to add the wood slacks to make this a bed. Now I treated all the wood slacks with a food grade mineral oil. I did this late last night because it was so hot yesterday in Arizona that I waited until the sun went down and I did it. So I actually, Mr. Benson actually threw away the bottle, but I will have it linked down below on Amazon, which is where I get it, so that you guys can see what food grade mineral oil that I use. Now once I do that, I also treat all of the woods in my bed. So the poles, the beds, the everything that is wood, I treat with food grade mineral oil every 6 months. Okay, so that is the easiest way to build a garden bed. If you guys haven't seen these little bricks and little wood pieces at Home Depot, you are missing out, because this is literally the easiest way to build one. So now I'm just going to cover this all back up, and I'm going to add some old potting soil from the pots onto this as the first layer. Okay, so I have my first layer in here. Now this is all old potting soil. So now I'm going to take just another scoopful of the fertilizer, and I'm just going to sprinkle it on in here. And this is now my second layer, so I'm now just going to water this all in. So you might ask yourself, why did I use old potting soil? So the thing is that potting soil has a lot of things in it. It has a lot of water retention things in it, like the perlite and the coco coir, different things like that, which also could be achieved through the same thing as putting some cardboard into your beds, or also like some paper, like shredded paper, into your beds. So if you don't have old potting soil, you can just do a layer of shredded paper, and it'll essentially do the same thing. Basically, I'm using what was in that old potting soil because I use Organics Plus, which really helps with moisture retention, and I just put that into the bed for the moisture retention. Now, potting soil that's in a pot is going to be spent after one season of growing, but it will leave behind a lot of roots from the original plant that you have. The same way that I don't dig out my roots that are in my big beds, I also don't dig out the roots that are in the pots. All I do is cut off the top, and I save that soil for when I want to top off or add a layer of soil before topping any of my beds off with compost. So when my soil gets depleted way down too low, then I just take those old potting soils, I layer it onto the soil, onto the beds, and then I top it off with compost. Now, I mainly do this because it's a less inexpensive way in order to recycle soil. So you could, bring out all of the old potting soil and you could re-amend it and then use it again for another season. But I find it way cheaper just to buy a bag or two of $6 potting soil versus buying all the amendments for it and then just using that old potting soil to top off my beds. So then I only need a couple layers of compost versus using a full fleet of compost in order to fill the beds back up, because your soil will deplete, especially here in Arizona. It's going to deplete because there's a lot of nutrients that then get pushed down as the worms are getting deeper and deeper down into your ground. So I am going to let this sit. I'm getting ready to water it in, and then I'm letting this sit for the next 2 days. I'm going to let it kind of just sit there, meld there, make its life, just see what's going on, and then I'm going to dig up a couple worms out of my worm compost bin in about 2 days, and I'm going to throw it in there and then put another layer, a thin layer of potting soil on top of it, and then it'll be ready for the 3rd day for all of the compost that I'm going to add to it. So I hope that this gave you guys an idea, especially for you Arizonans, how to start building your soil, because like I always say, once I heard this amazing quote, we grow soil. The soil is what grows the plants. So my main focus is growing soil that's going to be very nutrient based and sustainable for all of my plants for the future. So I hope this helps, guys. Until next time, grow yourself a garden, because even a small space can provide you with tons of food. Bye, guys.